Sup nerds, I'm Wes.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Aaron.
We're Neverboard Gaming, and today we're taking a look at the prototype for New Salem.
Oh!
Now with the Constable expansion. Woo!
So New Salem is a social deduction game. This is actually a reprinting of an older game, New Salem. The artwork's still the same and stuff. It's really hard to come by, so this is the second edition, which also comes with the Constable expansion, which
That's
adds
this guy right here.
some new stuff to it. This game is a drafting game at its core. You're going to be doing a lot of, drafting where you have cards. You're going to pick one, pass, and everybody flips it over. Very similar to like Sushi Go
Or Seven Wonders.
Yeah. And it plays fairly quickly. The first time I played it, I didn't notice how much social deduction there really is, but it is a social deduction game as well.
Yeah, that is a thing that I was thinking actually the first time we played it. I was like, this is mostly a drafting game. And the main mechanic is drafting, but like there is an awful lot of, the reasons why someone would or would not take a card is not just like Sushi Go or Seven Wonders where you're just trying to get the most points. The more you play it, the more you know the cards, the more you realize how dicey it is that, wait a minute, there's really no reason why you would play that card when I know what I handed you. Mm-hmm. And that is the aspect of, like, multiple plays. You really get better, you grow with the game.
That's definitely something that sets us apart from other just drafting games, is typically like in a game like Sushi Go or Seven Wonders, I'm looking at what's the best card for me and the worst cards for him to have. And in this, you're not just saying, okay, these are probably not going to be useful, but you really need to look at what would be most useful for him and what would be the least useful for him unless he was a witch or a spy or whatever you want to call the people in the social deduction games, because at the end of the game, there's the witches and there's the Puritans, and only one team is going to win. And once that team wins, then you count up points for everyone on that team, and the most points wins. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a witch, I don't care how many points Tom has if he's a Puritan. All I care about is having my team win and then having more points than the other people on my team.
But it also does do the same thing that Good Cup, Bad Cup did, and I think like Don't Mess With Cthulhu has this too, where you don't know 100% how many people are on what team. Like in the Resistance, every round it says, 2 spies, 4 non-spies. And here you shuffle it up, and it could actually be none.
Yeah. In a 3 and a 4 player game, you start with 4 of the Puritans and 2 witches shuffled together and deal out. So in a 3 and a 4 player game, with those odds, you could have no witches, which is
very
crazy.
Similar to what I said.
I know, but I'm just like,
Just a lot of the death and the justice buildings that they're bad for you unless you complete the set. Because the way you get points is every character card has icons on it that says you get extra points for just having these buildings built. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, every card is part of a panorama of 3 cards that if you complete the entire panorama, you get 2 points for every complete panorama. So a lot of the cards are just those symbols, and they either give you hope or they give you despair, which is how you determine which team wins. And then if you can complete the panorama, you get bonus points. The death and the justice cards, however, if you can complete a set of justice cards, you're going to remove 3 despair at the end of the game. If you can complete a set of death cards, you're going to add 3 despair at the end of the game. But individually, they help the other team. So the death that's going to add despair, when you play them, they add hope or they take away despair. So it's really, if you're the witch, you're going to want to say, oh, I'm only playing this for the hope. I'm not going to complete this set. I'm not going to do it. And in the last round of the game, you're like, yep, I'm going to do it. What are you going to do about it? Because now it's too late.
So if any of y'all have you played New Salem, and you're like, yeah, what does the Constable add? Come on, guys. One minor thing that I know it's going to sound really minor to you, but the rounds, you're always passing to the left. And here you don't alternate passing, which I think is really good for like new players, especially not just new players to this game, but social deduction games are things we use for introducing people to gaming in general. But like if I'm passing cards on my left and I'm trying to base who I think you are based on what I pass to him, and then I start passing cards to my right, and I'm trying to think who I think he is based on what I pass to him. Like, that's a lot to kind of keep track of, and also it's uneven if there's 5 rounds, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's better that we're just all passing the same way, so I can gain more information on Wes based off what I passed to him from the 5 rounds. You know, like, it's better that way.
The other thing the expansion adds is this actual Constable miniature. What do you call it?
3D construct.
Yeah. With this construct that's added in the expansion, you are the sole decider of what events actually trigger in the round. So everybody gets hope, based on the cards they play, but you can't actually spend the hope on the events unless you are the Constable. And when you're the Constable, you actually, when you have a certain amount of hope, you have to, like, you have as much hope as the most expensive card out there, you have to actually trigger something. So you kind of, if you're a witch and you're the Constable, you might want to, hold off on getting the maximum amount of hope so that you don't have to give away the Constable, and nobody can, like, actually trigger the events. Like, you're in a lot of control there, having that power.
Yeah, at the end of the game, like, if I'm a witch and I have the Constable, like, nobody can put me on trial as long as I'm the Constable. Mm-hmm. So I want to keep this as long as possible to potentially never be on trial.
But while you are the Constable, people can give you hope to help you, like, influence what you're going to do. Like, they're like, here, I'm going to give you this hope, and you should trigger this event, and we should blame this person. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. You could take it and not do it, and, it's like, there's a gentleman's agreement, like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but not. But if you are at that limit again, you do have to trigger something. You might not actually trigger the event that you two agreed on. You're like, hey, Tom, yeah, give me that. We'll blame him. And then I go, no, I'm blaming you, actually.
Yeah.
Ayo, ayo. One of the best parts about this giant 3D cardboard mini that you get is it actually has little reminders about the additional rules on the edge here. So, it's like, rules.
Or if you decide not to play with the Constable expansion, it's going to double as a token holder. Like,
well, look at that. You can flip it upside down. But, like, it's not going to stand up. So you have to, like, hand this to people like popcorn.
I do think that the Constable expansion does kind of clean the game up a good bit. Now, to be fair, we never played it without the Constable expansion, so I'm just kind of extrapolating this. But looking at what it adds, the fact that you're now always drafting the same direction and only one player can decide what events are triggered, it does kind of clean it up. It's not like, I'm going to trigger this event if you can give me, and Tom's like, no, I'm going to trigger it first, ha! Like, you don't have any of that kind of fighting over who gets to trigger the events or arguing about whose turn it is. It kind of brings it down to one player gets to decide and then pass the Constable. Mm-hmm. And if you're on trial, you can't be the Constable, so you can never trigger events. So I do think the expansion just kind of like condenses it a little bit and cleans it up.
One slight forewarning I'll give you, and we had said this about, like, Sorcerer. And this is a lot lighter than Sorcerer, but some of the art, obviously the subject matter, the whole witches and, all that stuff, it can be a little bit dark. Some of the art can be slightly suggestive. Now, again, if you backed Sorcerer or whatever and you saw that, this is definitely not as bad as this. But look at this one. It says, illustration coming soon. That is, oh, man.
That's the darkest one. I did notice that when we were playing, when a team did win, whichever team won at the end, the points were always kind of close because, like, we're all, drafting cards and trying to make those sets. And unless you're really trying to take something away, like if I notice Tom is drafting the pink ones, unless I, like, I'm going to draft this pink one just to not give him points, like, it's hard to stop people from getting points if they're going for them.
I mean, there's certainly no dominant strategy. No. There's no, like when you were saying, if I'm the only witch, I don't care how many points I have, I just, want to tank the game. It's not that such that, let's say you were wrong. You were like, oh, I don't care how many points I have, I'm just trying to tank the game. In tanking the game, you still gain a lot of points, such that if you're wrong and there was a second witch, you're still in that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, each character has specific suits that they're trying to collect does help a little bit with the lying deduction of, like, oh, look, I'm playing this, it's not great, but I just need points. I'm falling behind because I need this set. And it's one of the first times I saw it come up. And you can try to use that in your defense as to why you're not a witch. They also include a kiddie pool with a duck.
So you can see if the witch floats?
Yeah.
If it floats.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
So if you enjoy games like Sushi Go or Seven Wonders, you like drafting games and you're looking for the next level of drafting game, which actually adds in the social deduction, I think this is a good next step. Like once you've, if you like drafting, like this is a cool foray into the social deduction games.
So there was another game we played called Donner Dinner Party, and then there was another one that you and I played that was a prototype a little while ago, where they were taking a social deduction game, because up until now, generally social deduction games are based off of that information you get. You gain the information about the other people, you're trying to figure that stuff out. Like the Resistance is all based off of, there's no point system like this, there's no secondary thing, it's all about, the information that you gain. And like with Donner Dinner Party, they were trying to add another mechanism into the social deduction, and it never seemed like it worked. And here it really does seem like it works. I think that the drafting mixed with social deduction actually does come to, those two things do come together, because nothing overshadows the other. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, well, he's a witch and there's nothing I can do about it. It's not like, oh, he just drafted better cards, so there's nothing we can do about it. It feels like they blend those two mechanics together really well.
I also think that it adds a little bit more depth to just another drafting game. It does add depth, but depth to just a drafting game, because the drafting mechanic is really simple. It's drafting, set collecting with a resource that you get. But then on top of that, you're trying to help your team win while trying to figure out who's in the other team. And it takes, again, a very simple drafting game and adds an element not of complexity to the actual drafting, but another element that you're just trying to pay attention to that makes it so that you don't want that drafting to be any deeper.
Well, it adds... Your drafting affects like your motive, right? Like I'm not just saying, oh, he's going for this set for those points. It's like he's collecting these cards could be for this reason if he's this thing, or it could be for that reason if he's that thing.
Yeah, you could be collecting halves of sets just to get the despair, or just to get
the hope,
or
just
Aaron's
to get
swinging in for the win there.
Or just to get points for your team or for your icons, because the suits you're going for, if you get two, like you don't complete the panorama, you just get 2 cards in that set. That's worth the same amount of points as a full panorama out of suit. I mean, obviously, the best case scenario is getting a panorama in suit, because that's 5 points. But so there is a lot of options to go for there.
So if this game sounds interesting to you and you're on YouTube, we'll have a link in the description box down below that'll bring you to the Kickstarter.
Click the card.
Or right
cards
here.
are cooler than links.
Cards. Or if you're watching this on Kickstarter, well then, hey, you know what to do. Go ahead and scroll up there, back it, and make sure you write a comment about like, man, I really like Tom's blue shirt.
That shirt's green.
Blue or green?
Man, I really want to weigh in on the Tom shirt color debate of 2018.
Regardless, make sure you end up on YouTube so you can subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.
It's also a good drinking game. Sam Adams, pay us money. We showed your logo.
We get a cease and desist letter from Sam Adams.
New Salem is a reprinting of an older game, which is a game.
All right.
That's Keyless hitting fast.
That's a wrap.